Okay, so the starter is now ready. It is very bubbly, very active. Okay, and this is what it looks like after a few hours of rising in a warm area. If you guys remember, it was about somewhere here, and look how much it has risen. This is amazing. So let's start making our bread. It looks healthy. Guys, this is day 8, but we won't really know if this is healthy enough until we bake our loaf and bake it. So we're gonna start with my basic sourdough recipe. I'm using my Mason Cash bowl. It is my favorite bowl. I got this one in Walmart. This is the 4-quart one, so it's the bigger one. This can hold like 4 loaves. It's one of my favorites. Okay, let's do 650 grams of water. Now, my recipe does make 2 loaves, but if you only want to make 1 loaf, you can go ahead and cut this recipe in half. I just prefer making 2, that way I'm not redoing this process very often. So now I'm going to do 200 grams of sourdough starter. Look how healthy that looks. I am so amazed. And we grew this by ourselves from scratch. That is awesome. It still has a little bit of a weird-ish smell, but it's not too terrible. So I'm really curious to see how the bread is gonna turn out tomorrow. But the starter itself is looking pretty nice. Okay, 200 grams, perfect. So this is what I have left in my jar. So we're gonna continue feeding this, continue growing it. After a few weeks of your sourdough starter, you can go ahead and start keeping it in the fridge so you don't have to feed it as often. Okay, now I'm gonna take off the bowl from the scale and mix the water and the sourdough together to dissolve it. I have the full recipe for my basic sourdough loaf linked in my bio, which is gonna lead you to my blog. It is a free recipe. It is a very easy recipe. It's a no bulk fermentation, which is perfect for beginners because the process is so simple. All you have to do is mix everything together, do stretch and folds, shape it, put it in the fridge, the next day bake it. So it's very simple and you don't have to guess, is the dough ready? With bulk fermentation, it can be a little bit confusing, especially for new people. Now I'm gonna do 20 grams of Celtic salt. I actually bought this here on my TikTok shop. And I'm just gonna dissolve it a little bit. Because Celtic salt has bigger grains, I like to dissolve it in the water before I add the flour. If you're using regular salt, like a fine grain salt, you can go ahead and add the salt after the flour or with the flour. Okay. Now I'm gonna do 1,000 grams of unbleached bread flour, and this is by King Arthur. It is one of my favorite flours. Okay, 1,000 grams. Now go ahead and mix everything together.